This week on the show, we're talking about esoteric acupuncture, how you can use acupuncture protocols to heighten your psychic abilities, raise your vibration, and heal your entire being. I keep it basic. I talk about what acupuncture even is, how it affects the body and soul, how esoteric acupuncture is even possible, and I cover just a few of the protocols that I know about. There's so many that I don't even know yet. And then I dive deeper into one of my own personal experiences. Through a protocol called the Golden Needle, my professor and mentor had guided me through the astral realms to find these two entities to find out, is it possible to use esoteric acupuncture to mimic a DMT experience? Not going to give it away, but it is a wild and crazy ride. It is a protocol. I call it now the two dragons that I use with my clients now that has been life-changing and incredible to witness. Because I am very new to this world, I will one day have my professor and mentor in all this spiritual work, Dr. Adamson, on the show, and we will dive deeper into his wealth of knowledge of decades of experience doing esoteric acupuncture, energy healing, working with crystals, and all of that. But for now, keeping it basic, giving you guys a little taste of what's possible. You are listening to the School of Whispers podcast. I'm your host, Stephanie, and this is my space to get real, open, and weird about my life experiences as a psychic, medium, energy healer, and student of Chinese medicine. On the show, I'll be sharing my healing journey and the concepts I've learned along the way, and I'll be having guests on talking about the same sort of thing. I am so happy you're here, and I hope this show leaves you feeling inspired and empowered to learn how to listen to the whispers of your own body and spirit. Let's get into the show. Welcome to the show. I'm finally home from Italy. It was such an amazing trip, but it was a little over 2.5 weeks, and I'm sitting in my bedroom with my fluffy robe on. I just did a breathwork and hape ceremony, and hape is a form of ceremonial medicinal tobacco, and it feels good to be in my own space. I'm staring at my big comfy bed. The bed I slept on was not the easiest on my hips, not gonna lie, in Italy. And there's a lot of things I miss about being there. But man, I really love my home. So the topic today is esoteric acupuncture protocols. It's something that I'm very much a student in. The few things that I have really honed in on, I'm working on with my clients right now. So it's really great to be on the side of the receiver, the student, and the giver, or the practitioner of these things. And let's get into it. First, I want to talk about what even is acupuncture. I know I didn't really know what acupuncture was until my good friend Jason suggested back in 2020 that I should look into it. He thought I should study it. And I had no idea, didn't care about it, thought it was not for me. And then something in me just kind of became obsessed. And so what acupuncture is there's somebody who studies Chinese medicine, who's a doctor of Chinese medicine, learns about the energetic and physical balances within your body, the balance of yin and yang, the different elements and patterns and natures of hot and cold within your body. And with that, it's like we look at the web that is your being. And the thing about this web, there is no weaver. I'm referring to, by the way, one of the book that really solidified. All right, I'm studying Chinese medicine. It's called The Web That Has No Weaver by Ted Kapchuk. I may have butchered that. Let me look that up. Yeah, I got that right. And you can look it up on Amazon. But what he discusses is with Chinese medicine, we're not concerned with the sole cause. We're concerned with the web that the pattern has created. And by looking at that, we decide which acupuncture points on your body would serve you best. And the thing about acupuncture, why it's so effective on so many levels, whether it's a spiritual, psycho-emotional, physical, musculoskeletal, digestive, central nervous system, all lymphatic, literally all the systems that create you are involved here. The reason why it's so effective is because with the use of needles, we're creating this micro trauma to your skin. And it doesn't go deep in your skin, but it's creating this internal effect of calling upon agents of healing, anti-inflammatory agents, and things on that Western scale of cells and neurochemicals and blah, blah, blah. But then on this other level, the acupuncture needles, and this is according to the esoteric kind of textbook that I've been reading, it hits this other level, this finer level of us that is our etheric body, your astral body, your aura. So it hits you in your dense vibrational bodies and your higher vibrational bodies. Not hits, but it affects you. And by the way, before I keep going, this is going to be a part 1 because my professor, Dr. Adamson, who's been my mentor in a lot of this, he is a lot more advanced and experienced than I am, and I'm 100% getting him on the show sooner than later, and we'll dive a lot deeper into all of this. So I'm really going to be hitting everything kind of on a superficial level. Anyways, on this basic level, that's what acupuncture is. You can perform acupressure on yourself with tools or your hand, but only with acupuncture needles, as far as I know, can you have an effect on the spiritual body. And that's why esoteric acupuncture is possible. So what esoteric acupuncture is, it's just basically protocols for specific spiritual purposes. I actually wrote a few of them down from the textbook that I've been reading. And the main one that I will be diving deeper into is called the Golden Needle Technique. So I guess that's the first one I'll give you a brief overview of. So with Golden Needle, we're inserting needles in your 7 main energy centers or chakras. The goal here, keeping it super simple, because when Dr. Adamson's on the show, he is such a wealth of knowledge on this specific protocol. But the goal, for the most part, is to cleanse and align your chakra centers so that energy can move freely through your main energy centers, which raises your vibration and kind of brings you to this trance state, which I will get into later. All right, so there's also a protocol, completely different acupuncture points that we use to help you find clarity and direction in your life. There's a protocol called the heart balancing yin pattern, which is for relaxing and calming your nervous system and your emotions. Heart patterns in Chinese medicine typically have to do with feeling manic, depressed, having insomnia, and having a really hard time finding center within your emotions. There's also a pattern called the Palm Chi Installation pattern, and that is actually used for heightening the ability to sense energy within your palms. I've only done that once on myself, and I was only able to do it once because it's on your palms. And while acupuncture, it doesn't hurt for the most part. It feels like a little mosquito pinching you if you do feel something. There are points that aren't going to feel great, that for a moment you're going to be like, fuck. And that heart palm pattern had a lot of fuck moments. And it is temporary. Once that initial sensation came in, I just felt this deep heaviness and all this buzzing awareness around my palms, which was super cool. There's this one protocol called the lower calibration tree of life pattern. So the tree of life is in the book the textbook, and let's see if I can grab it so I can tell you the name. It's called Esoteric Acupuncture, Gateway to Expanded Healing. There's 3 volumes, and the author is Mikio Sankey. But this tree of life is part of the Kabbalistic tradition of this pattern with different centers of energy that represent different, almost, I guess you could say, virtues. So the point of this protocol is to install chi specifically to the root chakra in your body. It strengthens and releases the energy that's required to climb upward and inward for a spiritual healing journey. It also establishes energy needed for a strong and stable foundation so that you can raise your kundalini. I haven't experienced this one before, and I also haven't done it on anyone before, but again, we'll have Dr. A on the show, and I know that he's done it on at least one person. There's also protocols for your specific chakra centers, like your heart chakra, your throat, your third eye, and they just relate to strengthening the energy that matches that specific chakra system. So there's multiple ways that you can experience an esoteric acupuncture session. You can go for sort of the classic approach of being in the same room as the practitioner inserts the needles, you get into a trance state, and then you go through a journey together. Or you could also not have somebody in the room with you and go at it alone. I do recommend having a practitioner with you though, because especially with the protocols that bring you to another dimension, you won't necessarily find what you're looking for every time. The astral realm can be a very distracting place. So having somebody there to guide you and help you make sense of the experience is always extremely valuable. The other way that you can experience an esoteric protocol is my personal favorite way, is distally. So to paint the picture for you, you will have a scheduled session with your practitioner, and you'll find a safe place in your home where you know that it can be dark enough for you to have your eyes closed. I like to use an eye mask. You lay down somewhere that's very comfortable, no one's going to disturb you. And then you video call your practitioner. On the other side, the practitioner has an acupuncture doll with them. They connect, and it should be a softer rubber material. And then the practitioner connects the doll's energy to your energy. My husband likes to tease me because he says that I'm doing voodoo. And, voodoo gets a bad reputation from modern society, because if this is voodoo, I want everything to do with it, because it is life-changing and healing on so many levels. So with your permission, the practitioner connects the doll to your energy, and the doll becomes a proxy to you. What I do is I use my hands to then scan the field, make sure that my client doesn't have any attachments of entities or any blocked emotions. I make sure that the field is nice and clean, and then I insert the acupuncture needles into the doll in the necessary points. Then what happens is you relax and you enter this trance state. Let's dive deeper into golden needle, because that's the one I have the most experience with. The 3 purposes or intentions that I have either done golden needle with a client for or had it received was either 1, a past life regression, 2, a moment to converse with guides, ancestors, or higher self, or 3, simply to receive a healing. How this is all possible is when the chakra centers of your body are activated and cleansed, it raises your vibration to such a higher state that the realms, the physical and the spiritual, that veil right in between starts to dissolve. And with your eyes closed, you become aware of the whispers of spirit, whether it's seeing visuals, hearing things, feeling things. And it doesn't happen every time. It depends on a lot of things, but particularly it's the accuracy in which the practitioner located and needled the points, and then also the level of connection of entering the field that the patient has. And if you've listened to my latest podcast episode, number 11, the Whispers of Meditation, then you know what the field is. Briefly, I'll just tell you it's a place of non-being. It's a place that you enter when you practice meditation. So if a client doesn't really have a meditation practice, or particularly a practice of letting go, then that first session, while it will raise your vibration and you will feel really good after, what you feel is after you get an energy healing, you have this level of contentment and not attachment and observation around your entire life. So you will experience that, but you won't necessarily experience any sort of, I guess you could say, psychedelic experiences, any sort of assault on the senses that at least I've experienced sometimes with the golden needle. And also, we have to hold a level of trust that spirit will give us exactly what we need. Maybe you do need to just be in a state of relaxation. Maybe your body, your nervous system, and your soul need a moment of silence. Or maybe you need to experience a past life so that you can let go of that karma. Or maybe your guides have a message for you. So that's really why you would do it. In case you weren't exactly sure, why would someone want to do this? It's almost like an energy healing. It's almost like a plant medicine experience in some ways, because at least for myself, and I will dive deep into an experience that I've had with it. It's been a moment of entering this new realm and reality, and having everything I thought reality was be flipped on its head once again, and for me to face a side of myself, a side of my ego that needs to be seen. And then if I can get past that point, sometimes it's all about that. It's just all about the healing. But if I can get past that point, it's this moment of experiencing something entirely new that is hard to describe. It is exhilarating. It is really something else. But yeah, as the client, your job is to prepare yourself. Your job is to find clear intentions, to practice meditation, and to also have a direct line of trust and open communication with your practitioner. The practitioner's role is to create a safe space, to make sure that they're not bringing any of their own gunky energy into the session. I always make sure before I work with a client that I am in a centered place where I can give a lot of my energy to my client, because it does require this level of strength energetically. And also the role of the practitioner is to be the guide when and if my clients start to see things, or I'll tune in, and when I know that, all right, they're in the field, I need to prompt them to ask the right questions and to search for relevant details. And also, while I am doing this, I am constantly tuning into the beings around the room. Something really interesting that I've learned with acupuncture is it calls in a lot of energy. And when a lot of energy is amalgamating in one space, it attracts the attention of other beings, both high vibrational and low vibrational. Before I do acupuncture on myself or anyone or have a session with a client, I am creating a sort of seal, protective seal around myself, my client, and the environment that we're in. The purpose of this seal is to keep out any beings which do not serve my higher self or my client's higher self, and to make sure that only beings of a high vibration with the purpose of benefiting all beings involved as well as the collective good to be allowed to enter. And if my client is feeling physical pain, I will check into the doll or their physical body to make sure that I didn't leave any stone unturned in terms of entity attachments and trapped emotions. But what's really cool is in a few sessions that I've done, because the patient is in such a zone of connection, it's really easy if I do feel a blockage or an entity coming around, it's so easy for me to just ask their higher self to do it. I'll do some muscle testing, or again, I'll tune in and I'll ask, can you take care of this entity that's coming out of my client? Or can you make sure that that being that I see in the back corner of the room knows it's not welcome? And then bam, it's done. It doesn't take any energy out of me. With Golden Needle, that I really love too, is it's like the roles are reversed. With so many clients, I'm so used to doing readings and being the one seen and trying to describe what's going on. But then now it's the client who is experiencing everything and trying to put it into words. And then sometimes they actually do feel like a level of appreciation of how the hell do I get this on paper and describe what's actually happening. But of course, the main goal is so many lessons that we need to learn are best if we experience it ourselves on a sensual level. I'm not saying like a sexy level, on the level of all your senses, or at least a handful of them. It's so much better to learn through experience versus somebody just telling you. So a protocol that's not anywhere that I know of, not in any textbook, that I want to share with you is one called the Two Dragons. The Two Dragons is something that when I got back from Peru and after getting back from doing ayahuasca, my professor and I, we were talking a lot about the energy of ayahuasca and how just heightened all of my psychic senses were while being in communion with the medicine. And the thing with ayahuasca is it stays in you for about a month. So I know I was having a lot of dreams and visuals, and I was still doing a lot of the little chirping and silly things that I was doing when I was in ceremony. I was still doing that like in my sleep, which really freaked Mana out. But so that the medicine stays in you. And I remember saying to him, I'm going to be a little sad when ayahuasca is no longer an energy inside of me. And he said, well, what if we could figure out a protocol that could induce a state of DMT that can bring you back to that level of consciousness and expansion that you experience when ayahuasca's energy is around you. And so I was in, and I personally like the distal sessions because I like being alone in the space, because it kind of gives me a little bit of a less of a foot stepped into reality. Maybe I'm a weirdo, but I like to kind of make sure that I don't have any barriers against myself and really fully experiencing the experience, because I do know, and I have experienced this myself when I've been in person doing these protocols with others, is you are conscious of the other people in the room. Some people are really good at letting go, but I'm just not when there's others around. And I get a little bit, I guess, shy with letting myself fully freak out if I need to, or physically feel things or emotionally feel things. And for those who are wondering how this is even possible to do distal, this is your reminder that energy transcends all time and space. It doesn't follow the laws of the physical body. I've done readings for people that I've never met in Ireland, and I've done healings for people that I've never met who live in a completely different state than I do, and it doesn't matter. As long as you're able to tune into energy and you believe it, then you can do it. So anyways, I'm alone in my room and I do a video chat with Dr. A. We begin the Golden Needle protocol with the intention of finding a protocol that is similar to this DMT experience. And let me get this, because I wrote this all down when it happened. It's really important, in my opinion, after doing a protocol like this, to give yourself integration and to I either do voice memo on my iPhone or I type it, which I think is the best. It's the best way to organize your thoughts, through typing or writing rather. But yeah, this one I typed it up, and we're going to get into the world of the two dragons now. All right, so we begin with the golden needle technique, and I can feel all of it happening. It's like a little spark of energy that spreads out from the acupuncture point that's been activated and then becomes heavy and almost magnetic. Eventually, when all of the needles are inserted, I get into this trance state. And by the way, this trance state is totally accessible through meditation, breath work, and other techniques. It's just what usually takes me 30 plus minutes to get into this state. It only takes 5 to 10 minutes when using these acupuncture protocols. So I enter the field, and without any hesitation, ayahuasca arrived. And I could feel this feminine, light, as well as dark and heavy, very strong energy come in. And when I was in ceremony in Peru, the energy of ayahuasca she kind of teased me. She kind of liked to mess with me a little bit in a playful way sometimes, and then also in like a tough love sort of way. And then Dr. Adamson asked me to call upon the diva of acupuncture, which I hadn't heard of before. So I did, and I see greens and yellows, and I see bamboo and those really big elephant ear plants that just have that really wide leaf that almost looks like an umbrella. Eventually, my vision shifts, and I saw 2 women sitting at a table. One looked like my shaman from my ayahuasca retreat, Maestra Diana, and she was short with dark hair and short bangs, and she wore traditional Shipibo clothing. I knew that in my mind's eye, that was a representation of ayahuasca. And then another woman who was long and slender. She wore ornate green and yellow robes and had her hair pulled back with a lotus clip, was at the table. I knew she was the diva of acupuncture. After being prompted by Dr. A, I asked them if it was possible to develop a protocol to mimic a DMT experience. After the 2 got to know each other, it's almost like they just started talking, and then I would say, guys, girls, ladies, women, beings, did you hear what I asked? They kind of looked at me thinking as if to say, who's this little girl doing? What's this little girl doing at our table? Shush down. The grown-ups are talking. And then after that initial conversation, they looked at me, they smiled, and they said, all right, we get along. So I guess that was their yes. So I asked them for the points. And then after further discussion, they decided their protocol and showed me their agreed upon points. They warned me that it would be difficult for someone to ground themselves after an experience like this, and that it's not for everyone. Integration is important. I saw images of red and blue dragons flying around me. this represented that the treatment could transcend time and space. I think that it meant that it could be done distally. Dr. A asked me to ask the women if I was ready for this protocol. Of course, ayahuasca started teasing me and made me laugh. She was saying, I don't think it really matters if we say you're ready or not, because you're going to do it anyway. This is what you've been wanting for a long time, isn't it? And so, yeah, I was like, yep, let's do it. So he took out the golden needle protocol and then inserted the DMT one into the doll, inserted needles that matched the protocol that these beings gave us. And I call it the two dragons now, by the way, because I think the word DMT creates a certain level of expectation that of sort of blasting off and losing reality, which doesn't always happen. It always depends on what you need. And also, of course, as I mentioned earlier, your level of practice with the spiritual realms and the field of non-being. So for this one, I decided to grab an eye mask, and then I gave Dr. A the thumbs up, and he started the two dragon protocol. He began with the needles on my face. I felt a swirling energy concentrated in my head, and it started to grow intense, almost like an energy headache. Then he worked his way down my throat with the needles, and then my wrists. At every point, the energy spread down and then grew really strong and dense. So at this point, this intense energy was moving down my head, down my throat, across my collarbone, down my chest, and through my arms and into my hands. By the time he was at my wrists, I started to feel waves of fear spread through me. I could feel my sense of reality and my ego, my human, being threatened. I started to feel the unknown, and I felt a combination of fear and excitement with this transition. He needled around my sacral chakra, and then I started to hear laughter. It was a combination of high and low pitched, which jarred me a little, so I began my protection prayer. The beings who were laughing, they started telling me that they were laughing in excitement for me, because let's face it, I was pretty damn excited at this possibility. So, and all I could think of was how excited I was to return home, return to the intensity of experiencing home that I felt when I did ayahuasca. The beings who were laughing also asked me to please let go of all preconceived notions led by my judgments and anchors in reality. Getting towards the end of the protocol, he needled my right ankle. I could hear a voice say, "All right, here we go." And then he needled my left. My physical body started to shake, and I kind of started lifting my chest and arching my back. "I think it's working," I said out loud. I felt my soul being thrust and lifted out of my body, but the acupuncture needles were almost drawing silver thin cords, keeping me tethered. And from this third person perspective, I am watching my astral body hovering over my physical body. This astral body looked like a really highly detailed black and white illustration. And I felt the beings from my ayahuasca ceremony return. They surrounded me, and I felt these finger-like waves pitter-pattering all over my body. I told Dr. Adamson that I was experiencing a healing again, and I said, a lot's happening right now, and I'll just have to tell you about it later. And once I said that out loud, it was almost like I gave permission to myself and these beings and to whatever consciousness that had settled in around and within me to blast me off. It felt like a claw came down and grabbed my soul and just ripped me up higher and higher through these different levels, these different dimensions. And then all of a sudden it stops. And I have entered this dimension where the sky was purple with gray swirls, and there were these giant yellow golden pyramids. As I got closer, all these beings were standing in front of these pyramids as if they were lined up for something that was happening inside. And I walked up to these gray-blue beings with oval heads and large eyes. They were lanky, and all I remember is they didn't have 5 fingers. One of them turned to me and said, "Oh, good, you're here." And a small group of them just started guiding me inside the pyramid. When I entered the pyramid, I could feel my physical body way back down in my bedroom start to tremble. Everything was pitch black. Back in the 3rd dimension, I could hear myself starting to pant. In the astral realm, I heard a voice say, "Run, run." I panicked, and my astral body just started running and fumbling through the dark. And as I ran, I wondered, wait, who am I running from? And I heard whispers say, it's you, you're running from yourself. And hearing that, I thought, wait, I don't want to run from myself. And then it is almost like the lights flickered on in the room, and I stopped running, and then I just heard cheering. Apparently, it felt like I had passed this first test. And then a being handed me a spear. The space went dark for a moment, and then it almost like this red light filled the entire room. I hear a voice say, "Okay, now you have to go kill that woman. Run, go and kill her." I don't know who I'm supposed to be killing, but I feel this ferocity build up inside of me, and I feel my physical body tense up and start to tremor a bit again. And inside the pyramid, I start taking these long strides looking for my prey. And then I find her, and I find she was this redheaded woman in a green dress. And I wonder, when I see her, I'm still chasing her, and I think in my head, who am I chasing right now? Who am I supposed to be killing? And then I hear money. You'll finally kill money. I got right up to the woman, just kind of drop kicked her to the ground, and I leapt over her body and to pin her down, and I lifted the spear over my head. I was moments from stabbing her right in the heart, and then in a flash my mind's thinking, what is it like to kill somebody? What does that look like? Oh my God, I don't want to kill somebody. And I just dropped the spear, and I just kind of start crying with the realization that I was about to, even though it was in the astral realm, it felt so real. And yeah, I just started crying because I was like, holy shit, I was about to kill somebody. I would have had to peel their heart off this stick. So once I stop though, I hear these words say, "Well done." And then is like this large hand came down and pushed me, and I started falling backwards. And I started falling through that dimension and falling through all these dimensions until I'm hovering back over my physical body. I then see this large being reach down and grab not a bean, not a frijole, a being reached down and grabbed something out of my belly, and it's a baby. And he cradles the baby against his chest. And I'm sitting there wondering, all right, is this my future? Is this my future giving birth here? But then the being turned the baby towards me, and it's me as an infant. Needless to say, I'm confused. But in hindsight, I believe this is them representing a rebirth for myself of sorts. So once again, I've allowed myself here, I realized, to be healed on an energetic and a karmic level. And I feel in that moment when the baby's facing me and I see myself, I'm feeling this understanding and so much gratitude. At the very end of this whole experience, the being takes on this larger, more masculine form that feels like a giant fish. He swims closer to me and just surrounds me and asked if I had any questions. And in that moment, I was just in this grateful bliss, and I kept on saying, thank you, thank you, thank you. But then I stop and I think, wait, no, I do have a question. We're not done here. And I said to him that I noticed I'd been picking again. Picking is something that since childhood and since realizing a lot of things and doing trauma work and kind of looking back, I understand that picking my skin, it brings this, for a brief moment, it's brought this level of control, this illusion of control over my life. And I say illusion because once I get into picking and realizing that I'm doing something that I don't want to do, I feel a level of out of control. It's just this horrible self-fulfilling prophecy of feeling out of control that happens. And I asked this being, what could I do to help? And he said that, well, the other day what I was doing is when I found myself picking, I started to sit with myself in my discomfort and just slow myself down, which is a great method, but man, you're not always in the mood to sit in your own shit. I'll tell you that. So you got to have a tool belt for everything. So he told me that I could do a ceremony of cleansing my hands. He sent me this vision of myself filling a large metal bowl with warm water, herbs, and lemon. And then I started banging the sides of the bowl, which created a vibration within the water. And I started humming and creating intentions, and then dipped my hands in the water while humming and singing. He said he called it the cleansing of the hands, and I understood what he meant. And a side note here, because all of this occurred in another dimension, it doesn't happen linearly like things happen in the third dimension. This all happened within a span. It felt like hours, and it was within a span of like 15, maybe 20 minutes. And so there was just no concept of time here. But anyways, the being of the fish went back to the man holding the baby and then handed me the baby. And as he did, I felt myself being gently placed back into my body, my physical body. And I remember saying out loud, I think I'm back in my body. Later, Dr. Adamson told me that he could feel my energy encircle the doll. And that's it. I know it's a little bit of an awkward place to stop, but that was it. And I've had a lot of integration since then. I've also had other other 2 dragon protocols performed on me, and I've done it on others since then. And it's just all wild and crazy and wild. The feedback that I've received and what I've noticed with others is, so the feedback is that other healings and other protocols kind of feel like coffee. And this specific one kind of feels like a shot of espresso. So everything happens with a lot more intensity and a lot faster. And it also takes a lot of your energy as well. A lot of my clients get really sleepy afterwards. On the other side of things, as a practitioner, it gets pretty wild. I've had clients speak with passed on relatives. I've seen beings enter the room and facilitate healings to everyone that was present. I've had clients literally start shaking within their entire body on the table, which through the site, looking at their energy field, I realized that they're facilitating their own healing. It's really nothing I've ever experienced before. And I love being in the setting because you got to be on your toes. You got to be ready for anything to happen. You have to be ready to heal, to help, to communicate, to do all of these things to make sure that it is a session where everyone is safe and the highest intentions can be played out. All right, well, that's me for today, guys. We will definitely dive deeper into what esoteric acupuncture is from a perspective of a very experienced practitioner. And of course, he and I will talk about other things. It won't be next week. I don't even have the interview ready yet. I need to purchase some new equipment. But I really hope that you enjoyed hearing this experience. If you want to learn more, you can check out my website, schoolofwhispers.com. And we can, if you're in the Orlando area, we could do an in-person session, but know that distal sessions are always available. I also want you to know that the relationship, the communication between practitioner and client is so important. It's not this one-off sort of deal. It is a journey that begins with energetic healing. I cannot do a protocol on somebody who doesn't have a clean field, because then energy just gets stagnant and blocked. So we begin with an energetic healing session, and then maybe if we have time, we can go into golden needle. But it does take a level of dedication and effort and time from both parties to really get to different levels within each session. And it really has changed. I've watched people's lives change. I have had people come to me so depressed and so disconnected from themselves, after 3 or 4 sessions, just become an entirely new person. So like with every healing journey, it is a journey. It's not about finding the one destination. It's about the path, the experiences, the sensations, the lessons that you learn along the way. And on that, thank you so much for being here. As always, if you're new to the show, welcome. And I will be feeling your energy next week.